If you had to fight SCP-096, how much are you fighting it for? Because me, I don't think there's enough money in the world to fight SCP. Man, he be disappearing folk. But we are going to check out a video of what would happen if you did fight him. So we'll have you versus SCP-096 Shy Guy. This is by an infographic. Let's get into the video.
So you had a job interview with the SCP Foundation, nailed it, signed the requisite non-disclosure agreement, and you got yourself the job. Congrats! Now you're an operative in charge of some of the strangest, scariest, and most dangerous discoveries out there, and it's time to secure, contain, and protect. So what is your assignment here at the good old SCP Foundation? You must have drawn the short straw because you have to keep an eye on one of the deadliest creatures in the organization's custody, SCP-096, also known as the Shy Guy.
Just don't look at his face.
As terrible luck would have it, on your first day looking after it, SCP-096 has escaped from custody, and you're now in very real danger of a direct encounter. It's now up to you to face off against this formidable foe and try to make it out in one piece. But don't despair just yet. We're here with all the advice you need to survive your first day on the job and best SCP-096 as lethal as it may be. So strap in and get ready for the fight of your—
How much do these SCP workers make? I gotta know this, because they dealing with some real monsters.
life. Before we can talk about how a fight against this anomalous creature might go for you, it's important to know your enemy as well as you can. So let's get to know SCP-096. It may be nicknamed the Shy Guy, but trust us when we say it is nowhere near as demure as that sounds. In fact, 096 may be one of the most frightening finds in the history of the organization, and it's not to be underestimated. An emaciated-looking humanoid creature, Shy Guy stands about 2.38 meters tall. It is pale and hairless, with unnaturally long arms that span a length of 1.5 meters each, perfect for strangling, beating, and dismembering foes from a distance.
I will say the Chris Gamer animations did not show this particular type of SCP-96. Like, the type he showed and animated looked more like a regular human being that was just gray. These other depictions definitely look more monstrous, for sure.
If that wasn't terrifying enough, its jaw can open 4 times wider than the average human. You read that correctly. This thing can open its jaw 4 times wider than a human jaw. Its eyes have no pigmentation, and it may or may not be able to see. Whether it has a sense of sight or not, SCP-096 can tell when it's being observed. Normally, when left alone, it spends its time pacing and largely keeping to itself. However, once its face has been seen, whether in person, via a video feed, or in a photograph, SCP-096 stops being quite so docile. This is where the dangerous part comes in. Once its face has been spotted, SCP-096 flies into hysterics, screaming, babbling, and covering its face in apparent despair. Don't feel too guilty for upsetting it, however, because that's time you should be using to run. The next thing the creature will do, once it's got its weeping out of its system, is begin heading right for you. SCP-096 runs at a documented speed of at least 35 kilometers per hour, so good luck trying to outrun it once it sets its sights on you. Once it reaches you, it will kill you. Details of the method of killing have been redacted from official SCP reports, but whatever it does, it leaves no trace of its victim behind. So you're very possibly going to get really familiar with that freakishly large
So does it
mouth.
eat them
When
or something?
SCP-096 was initially captured, it was found outdoors in extreme cold without a scrap of clothing on it. The creature was just calmly sitting there without giving off so much as a shiver in response to the temperature. Multiple members of the team assigned to retrieve it happened to see its face, and that's when the mission took a turn for the worse. The entity began to scream and cry, sounding more like a person than an animal, to a reportedly uncanny degree. The team fired on the entity, but the bullets didn't do so much as phase it. It picked up one member of the team and ripped off his leg. The team fired an anti-tank round at the entity, and again, it didn't so much as slow it down or take any noticeable structural damage. The entity only calmed when everyone who had seen its face was destroyed, after which it sat back down. A soldier who had not yet seen the creature's face placed a bag over its head, seemingly preventing any future deadly outbursts. So now let's get back to your predicament. You're working at the SCP Foundation, going about your merry business when suddenly you find yourself about to be face-to-face with an escaped SCP-096. Face being the operative word.
Just
The
retire.
first tip for surviving an encounter with SCP-096
It's time to
is
retire,
avoid
that's
looking
all.
at its face. Of course, but when that option is out the window, what can you do to escape with your life? Is it possible to defeat the creature that wasn't even slowed down by an anti-tank weapon and a team of armed operatives? Maybe. It may be tempting to try and take a flamethrower to the gangling creep or just turn tail and run away from it, but as we know by now, neither of these solutions are likely to be viable. However, there is hope, and maybe your first day at the new job does not have to be your last. There are a few possible solutions that would allow you to come out victorious in a conflict with SCP-096.
I feel the only way to handle SCP-096 is to handle it after it's done crashing out. Like, you have to let it do its thing, and then you could capture it maybe. Like, I don't feel like there's much you can do to stop it from going crazy.
They have less to do with pure firepower and more to do with utilizing the most powerful weapon in the human arsenal, your mind. Option 1. Cover the entity's face. As previously mentioned, the entity's aggressive behavior was curtailed when a bag was placed over its head during its capture. Covering SCP-096's face seems to render it passive, even helpless. However, this is a risky option, as it would require you to get close enough to the entity to put a covering over its face, and it's likely that getting that close would result in you acting.
If you walk up behind him and he just goes like this, bro, I would just accept. There's nothing you can do after that. Like, bro, just get it over with. Go for the head first, man. I'm trying to feel all that.
Accidentally seeing said face. Once that happens, it may be too late to get the bag over its head before the entity flies into a rage and tears you limb from limb like a helpless crustacean at your local crab shack. You could always try to close your eyes and approach the entity with the bag in the world's most dangerous game of pin the tail on a donkey, but we don't recommend it. Option 2 is high risk, but with a potentially high reward. While SCP-096 does not respond to assaults with deadly weapons, there is one thing that it is afraid of, and that has done significant damage to it in the past. This is yet another highly dangerous entity, SCP-682, one of the most powerful, deadly, and aggressive anomalies the Foundation has ever been able to contain. This entity is not to be trifled with, but if you can get it into the room with SCP-096 and get yourself as far away from the both of them as possible, it may just solve your problem. The two creatures were previously introduced to each other in an attempt to terminate SCP-096, and while 096 survived the encounter, it emerged from the attempt severely wounded and upset. Future exposure to SCP-682 caused SCP-096 to erupt into hysterics, screaming and clawing.
Patients around the world are cleaning their retainers wrong. Here are the 3 worst ways to clean your retainer. 1. Brushing. This is really common, but can actually cause irreversible damage to your retainer. Harsh plastic bristles
at its own face.
Okay, so that explains one question I've had, where if you beat him bad enough, he seemed to get PTSD. So he does actually get PTSD from getting his ass whooped, which is good to know.
You need to get SCP-096's attention away from you and perhaps succeed in terminating it. It is definitely worth a shot. So what is SCP-682? Simply put, it's a highly dangerous and difficult to destroy reptilian creature. It exhibits a high level of intelligence. Unlike SCP-096, which does not appear to be especially intelligent or aware of its surroundings beyond its fits of rage that follow its face being seen. This entity hates all life forms and is incredibly strong, fast, and exhibits lightning-quick reflexes. Its size fluctuates dramatically and quickly depending on what it's ingested. It's capable of speech and has given several interviews where it admits its hatred for life and its willingness to kill. It is regarded as extremely dangerous and it's seemingly impossible to permanently kill. We say permanently because the creature has been temporarily killed in the past, but it was able to resurrect itself afterwards. It recovered from bullets, acid, fire, and attacks from other SCPs. It has successfully escaped 6 times and attempted escape unsuccessfully 17 additional times. So is it worth it to attempt to employ SCP-682 as a weapon against 096? That is debatable, but the answer is likely no. At the very least, it's a dangerous last resort that would possibly cost you your life even if it is able to terminate 096. For starters, SCP-682 would have to be released from its containment, a room full of acid that consistently erodes away its skin so that it can attack 096 in the first place. As previously mentioned, 682 is highly intelligent and is unlikely to be able to be tricked or manipulated into acting on your behalf unknowingly. If it goes after SCP-096 and attacks the humanoid monstrosity, it will do so only because it wants to. Because this creature hates all living things and you just happen to be living, it's just as likely that it'll attack and kill you before it goes after SCP-096. However, if by some miracle you were able to get SCP-682 and the Shy Guy into the same room without getting killed in the process, then you may have just freed yourself from this dangerous trap. Once 682 sees 96, it'll attempt to kill it, as it has in previous encounters. Meanwhile, 96 will be thrown into a state of distress at the sight of 682, distracting the shy guy from your presence and allowing you to escape and find a superior who can amend the situation and return both creatures to their containment. This would require a great deal of planning, however, in no small amount.
I think if you dropped 96 into the room with 682, it will work.
Of good luck. Since you found yourself in this situation in the first place, luck does not appear to be on your side. This brings us to our third and final option, and it's the one that's most likely to prove effective against SCP-096, allowing you to terminate the creature and emerge victorious. As you already know, the shy guy cannot bear for anyone to see its face, and will viciously attack anyone that does so. Much like in the myth of Perseus and Medusa, it all comes down to reflections. In the story of Medusa, the hero Perseus was able to avoid being turned into stone by looking at Medusa's reflection in his shield, rather than looking at her directly. Since SCP-096 attacks anyone who sees its face, not just directly but via indirect methods like video and photographs, it's unlikely that looking at its reflection would save you. However, we aren't just trying to save you, we're trying to defeat SCP-096. The solution is as simple as it is effective. Take a reflective surface, ideally a mirror or a piece of reflective metal if you can find one in the facility, and approach SCP-096 with it. Keep your eyes averted from its face, looking down at the rest of his body or just at its feet on the floor. Just make sure that you can see which way it's facing. Then present the creature with the mirror, showing it its own reflection. If what we know about the entity holds true, it will fly into its trademark uncontrollable violent rage and begin to attack the creature that has seen its face. In this scenario, that creature is itself. It'll begin to tear itself to pieces, ripping and clawing until there's nothing left of itself or until it cannot move anymore. Because SCP-096 seems to be stronger than any weapons we have, the only weapon that makes sense to kill it with is itself. Once it's stopped its self-destructive assault and has been neutralized, you will be able to escape with your life and the knowledge that this deadly threat has been eliminated once and for all. Congratulations! Not only did you live through your first day at the SCP Foundation, but you succeeded where countless other scientists have failed and managed to terminate one of the organization's deadliest finds. Okay, it won't be that easy. If showing the thing its reflection was the simplest way to totally kill it, the Foundation would have done it already. But according to some accounts, being presented with reflective surfaces has caused the creature to frantically claw at its own face in a state of extreme distress. What could be a better distraction to tag and bag this insecure monster and cart it back to its cell? Either way, your work here is done. Run yourself a hot bath, pour yourself a drink, and celebrate a job well done. Now let's see what kind of trouble you can run into tomorrow. Be sure to check out the rest of the You vs. playlist to see how you'd fare against the biggest and baddest of pop culture. If it's more monsters you're after, check out You vs. the Rake. Could you survive and defeat? This is your brain.
Ooh, I'm so interested in the Rake. I don't know if those methods would work. Those kind of seemed like hypotheticals. It'd be kind of interesting if SCP-096's biggest enemy was a mirror. If he could damage him like that visibly, that could work. But yeah, let me know how you would take out SCP-096. And has it ever been done?